Okay, so we can start.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
So I am introducing to you all. So we have with us Adnan Sayed sir, Ambika Pote madam, and Sonal Chaudhary madam. So welcome, madam and sir, and welcome all the participants for this session. So I am introducing Sonal Chaudhary madam. She is a publisher of mathematics, physical, and applied sciences journals. She brings with her immense experience of managing and developing journals. The journals portfolio being managed by her comprises the journals co-published by Springer Nature partners, none other than Indian Institute of Science, the Institution of Engineers, IIT Madras, Indian Institute of Metals, Indian Geotechnical Journal, Indian Journal of Physics, and many more. She also manages many other global Springer Nature proprietary journals. Just to give an idea of the significance of her journal portfolio, the Indian Journal of Physics was founded by none other than Sir C.V. Raman, who was also the first editor in the chief of journal. So second volume of the journal published by Sir Raman's famous article, A New Radiation, that reported the discovery of Raman effect led to the Nobel Prize. Apart from managing journals, ensuring ethical compliance and apprising editors of the latest development of industry are few Sonal Madam for responsibilities and interest. Welcome, Madam. Then
Thank you so much.
yes, I'm introducing Ambika Pote Madam. Ambika Pote Madam is publishing assistant MPAS journals, Springer Nature India. She is currently involved with Springer's mathematics, physical, and applied science journals. Ambika Madam holds a master's degree in biotechnology and bachelor's degree in microbiology from Rashtrasan Tukadoji Maharaj, Nagpur University. In her current position, she supports Springer Nature's dynamic team in developing and managing journals, contributing her expertise to advancing scientific publishing. Welcome, Ambika Madam. Then we have with us Adnan Abid Sayed sir. He has been working as a publishing assistant for mathematics, physical, and applied science journals at Springer Nature India. He brings a wealth of experience from his previous roles, including journals, support coordinator, publishing assistant, and editorial advisor at Springer Nature Technology and Publishing Solutions in Pune. Adnan sir holds a Master of Science in Geology from Savitribai Phule, Pune University. In his current role, he collaborates with his team to develop and enhance journals by streamlining article pipelines, reducing turnaround times, and achieving key performance indicators. Welcome, sir. So now I am requesting all to deliver the presentation. Thank you very much.
Sure. So thank you very much, organizers, for such a kind introduction. We are here today to talk about the art of being a smart and ethical author. So good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for joining us virtually. I have with me a very experienced journals team taking care of some of the most well-known journals originating from India, Singapore, and Switzerland. And between us, we take care of more than 30,000 submissions. Moving on to the next slide. We are going to share with you the art of being a smart author and ethical author. And in that context, we will be covering all the important aspects from identifying a journal to what to look for in a journal, especially keeping in mind so many predatory journals that are mushrooming every year. We will then touch base on important aspects to keep in mind while submitting your article. so that your article will move fast to the inbox of the editor-in-chief. Thereafter, as you can notice, we will move on to latest developments in peer review process and how you can even make most of rejections. And what if you are a reviewer? Is there a way to get the credits accumulated in a way that you can showcase your service to the community? We will then share with you the secrets of journals. How do journals editors identify plagiarism or duplicate submissions? And for that matter, last but not the least, we will also be talking about open access publishing and also clone journals and mirroring of journals concern arising in journal publications. Moving on to the first section, before we dwell further on the secrets of behind the scene activities of a journal, I would like to share with you more about the company that all of us represent here so that you can identify the brands or journals that we take care of. And accordingly, if you may be wondering, where is the famous horse and knight and what is Springer Nature, then next slide shows you that. So in 2015, Macmillan Science and Springer merged together to become one company, and which is now known as Springer Nature. Under this umbrella, we have various well-known brands. Some of them are Nature, Scientific American, Biomed Central, Palgrave Macmillan, ADs, and also academic journals on nature.com. Now, the company's combined global footprint is reflected in its expanded geographic reach that is shown on the slide. And when we translate this reach in numbers, then what we get is offices in more than 50 locations and more than 10,000 employees working for the organization. What always surprises me is the fact in which this company has evolved over the years. So it all started in 10th May 1842, when Julius Springer on his 25th birthday founded his bookstore and publishing house in Berlin, laying the foundation for today's company. So now we are almost more than 175 years in academic publishing. We're a global publisher that serves and supports research community and is very proud to have published with most of the Nobel laureates and also field medalists. Now, any idea why did these Nobel laureates or field medalists put their faith in Springer Nature journals? This is because all reputed authors or stalwarts follow this foolproof method. So whenever you are ready for submission, first check is the publisher. If the journal where you want to submit is from a reputed publisher like Springer Nature, then you can be confident that it is a good journal. Also check the editorial board. They must have at least a list of international experts with some good names that are known to you. You can also check where the journal is indexed. For example, if it is indexed in the directory of open access journals. If so, it is likely to be a good journal. But also check if it is indexed in the databases where researchers in your field used to find articles, like Web of Science or Scopus. If it is not there, then even if it is published, no one will find your work and your efforts will be wasted. Also look at the recently published articles in the journal, where the authors are coming from. Do you recognize the affiliations, universities? Do you recognize the names also? If so, you can have more confidence that others in your field are also publishing in this journal. And lastly, if you plan to submit in an open access journal, then almost all the open access journals only charge a fee after acceptance. So if a journal asks for a submission or a publication fee before the acceptance of a paper and also claims to publish your article in a very quick turnaround time, say 7 to 10 days, then it's a big no-no and you need to be very, very careful. Now moving on to the second section. This will be, in this section, we will be throwing light on two more very important aspects. How to identify a good journal and how to ensure that we do not fall in the trap of predatory publishers and don't end up publishing in journals that do not look good on our CVs. In fact, You will be surprised to know that just like all of you, even Springer Nature constantly undertakes research on how we can support our authors and editors better. And in that context, data revealed that majority of articles are rejected even without peer review, primarily because these are out of scope of the journal. Now, as you can see on the next slide, see on the journal homepage, you can see the complete information of a journal. And the homepage also contains the window to your submission process. Yes, you have guessed it right. The journal homepage very clearly shows submit online or the tab to submit your manuscript. Now, this page also carries the submission guidelines, or you can say instruction for authors, that will help you with the journal specific requirements to prepare your manuscript accordingly. Now, before I go on the next slide, I will also once again like to stress on the fact that the best and the fastest way to submit to a journal to any global publisher is online. Moving on to the next slide, the next important aspect to browse on any journal website is information about various databases in which the journal is indexed in. So, for example, in Springer website, this information is found at the bottom of the journal homepage. It is here that you can see whether the journal is indexed in Scopus, Web of Science, Medline, etc., other indexing databases, and if it has an impact factor at all. Now, we are also one of the rare publishers who published the inclusion of the journal in UGC care list. On the next slide, I would like to showcase another very important feature, which is journal metrics. Now see, browsing through these metrics, you can see speed, impact, and the usage of the journal. Now, most of the speed is turnaround time, impact factor are self-explanatory.
Please continue.
Yeah, please continue, madam.
Please continue.
Okay. Yes. So let's look at the slide, which is journal slide that represents journals metrics. And as you can see, there are a few metrics, journal metrics mentioned on the on this slide. This is actually a screenshot of a journal's website. So these are the metrics that are available on the journal website. Now, browsing through these metrics, as you can see, there is impact factor mentioned. Now we have turnaround time also, and also usage. So I would like to stress upon usage, as the other metrics are quite self-explanatory. So from here, I think we lost. Now, because the era of printed copies of journals distribution is now gone out of the window, and mostly the content is available online only, so the authors should always look at the usage. Usage is the number of times readers download the articles of a journal. So this shows the readership of the journal or the reach of the journal. And this also reflects how the journal is being received by the specific research community. And this is the time when we put our first poll. That I will request organizers to please put up the poll.
Yes. One madam. Yes, madam. One second. Well, yes, it is opening because I have to copy paste and
Yes, we understand.
one.
Thank you, audience, for the patience, and we look forward to your complete participation in the poll.
Yeah. There are three options here. First vote. So should I launch it?
Please go ahead, sir.
Okay. So I have launched here. So everybody can see the question.
Yes, I think it is appearing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Everybody can
Yes.
see the poll.
Please
and
start
see
keying
the
in your answers.
Yes, yes. Yeah. Everybody start the polling and give the answer, please.
So thank you very much. While the poll is still being filled in, I think most of the attendees have already keyed in their answers, and we will find the correct answer. Although I see the audience is quite wise here, and we see most of the answers correct, but we'll find the correct answer in the upcoming slides. So we come to the third section of this presentation. And in this section, I will take you through little aspects of submissions that makes all the difference. So moving on to the next slide, when we submit an article to a journal, we all want it to move forward very quickly through the peer review process. And for that to happen, the article should first reach the inbox of the editor-in-chief. But it is important to note that there are multiple steps that is done before it reaches to the inbox of editor-in-chief. So there are initial checks that are done on your manuscript before it is assigned to the editor. So the first step is that the editorial office of the journal checks the article for completeness. The completeness is determined by the submission guidelines mentioned on every journal homepage as instruction for authors. So a smart author will always ensure to read these instructions very carefully before submitting the article. Second important thing is to be sure of to know in advance who will be the corresponding author. And if you're wondering why this is important, then it is important because only at the time of submission, such things needs to be clearly specified. And as shown on this slide, the role of corresponding authors means being responsible for managing communication between the journal and the author and coordinating with co-authors for questions or concerns, if any. Very important to consider is the fact that it is the authors at the time of submission who key in their own and all authors' name in the submission tool. And this information is then automatically carried forward if the article is accepted. So there's no manual intervention after that. Increasingly, journals are also recommending authors to include contribution statement in the work that specifies the contribution of every author in order to obviously promote transparency. And these contribution statements should be listed at the end of submission.
Madam,
Yes.
1 second. The slides not visible to the participant. That is the remark given at chat window. So I am asking any one participant whether the slide is visible.
Slide is visible to me.
Yes, it is
We're
also
talking
visible
about
to
the
me.
poll.
Yes, it is visible.
Poll was
They are
visible.
Okay. Thank
That-
you. You can go ahead.
So the one who is facing this problem can actually switch on off the camera or join and rejoin. Maybe that will help. So we'll come back to the presentation. So we were talking about the contribution statement, and that should be listed at the end of submission. Now, there are various examples of contribution statements, which is available in various journals. You can browse through the articles and see how it is written. Like it can be all authors contributed to the study equally, or maybe author X, ABC helped in material preparation, data collection and analysis, and all those things. So moving on to the next slide, here we'll be talking about authorship definition. And when we say authorship, there are a couple of very important do's and don'ts. The first is that order of authors at the time of submission need to be carefully discussed among authors, as changing this later, as I told you, changing this later is literally not possible. And if you are actually planning to add or delete authors after acceptance, or even at the revision process, then these two are the most difficult options that authors should refrain trading on. Moving on to the next slide, Here we are going to talk about the copyrights. So as an author, have you ever wondered why copyright needs to be given to the publisher of the journal? Now, this is primarily because the publisher cannot possibly publish, disseminate, and market the journal until or unless the copyright is assigned to the journal. Nowadays, many publishers, including Springer Nature also, are changing copyright with license to publish, in which the authors retain right to reuse the materials published and need not seek permission from the publisher, but they should always use correct attribution to be mentioned within the article. Similarly, for open access published article also, permission need not to be taken from the publisher, but for reusing a content, it is advisable to always put correct reference and attribution within the article. Moving on to the next section, a very commonly asked question or an aspect is about thesis. So majority of the universities and institutes require the thesis to be submitted in institutional repository. But does this publication of thesis stops you from publishing any portion of thesis as an article in a journal? No. And this slide is to remove such doubts by mentioning Springer Nature policies. So publishing your thesis is never considered a barrier in publishing an article or a book chapter. And similarly, an already published article or a book chapter can always be included in a thesis with correct reference. And with this, I would like to invite my colleague Adnan Abid Sayed to share more about peer review process. Over to you, Adnan.
Thank you, Sonal. Moving on to what is called as the foundation of academic publishing. Yes, you guessed it right. It's the peer review process, which is always at the heart of research. And like all global publishers, we greatly appreciate the contributions of our reviewers who generally devote hours each week in moving science forward, providing invaluable constructive criticism and enhancing the quality of published articles. Your contributions truly help us transform draft manuscripts into finalized versions of record. Understanding this, we are also committed to recognizing the valuable and critical role of peer reviewers and support your efforts by encouraging and enabling recognition of your contributions. Taking this discussion forward, please let me know what comes to your mind after seeing this image. Is this a common feeling that you all get when your article is under peer review? Do you feel that everybody out there is to axe and trash your work of labor? Jokes apart, peer review itself is a positive process that validates scientific records and helps you in improving your manuscript while also allowing journals to publish good quality science, which is beneficial to the entire scientific community. Sometimes authors find that peer review process is intimidating because it can lead to rejection of their manuscript. But we need to keep in mind that revisions and improvement are a part of publication process. And actually they help raise the quality of manuscripts and not to criticize them. Now we are all familiar of the three most types of peer review used, which is closed peer review, double blind, and single blind peer review. In closed peer review, reviewers are aware about the author's identity, but authors do not know who the reviewers are. In contrast, a double-blind peer review ensures that neither the authors nor the reviewers know each other's identity, so that there is no bias consciousness. As illustrated on this slide, numerous journals such as BMG Biomed Central have adopted open peer review model. In this model, not only the identities of authors and reviewers are disclosed publicly, but even the review reports are also published alongside the article. Additionally, few journals also encourage post-publication review, enabling continuous scrutiny and discourse, where even the readers are allowed to rate the articles. Furthermore, regardless of how your study or manuscript is, you may still not be successful at your target journal. Remember, you are competing for a very limited space, and there might be a lot of reasons for rejection. So what should you do if your manuscript is rejected? Firstly, relax. Remember, this happens to everyone, so please do not take it personally. Next is learn from the experience. Check what the editors didn't like about your manuscript. Can you revise it to improve it further? Lastly, you should resubmit your manuscript to the most suitable journal. And as publishers, we want to help you in this course. Springer has an excellent transfer desk service, which is free of charge and provides a convenient way of authors to resubmit their manuscript to a more suitable journal within a wider portfolio. Now, when it comes to peer review recognition, we know that reviewers spend weeks in reviewing others' work, and we at Springer have our own ways of saying thank you to them and appreciating them for their honest feedback. As a reviewer, you can easily get certificated from the journal for which you have reviewed simply by reaching out to the contact person listed on the journal website. Other than this, we have also collaborated with Web of Science Reviewer Recognition Service, which is also formally called as Publons, and ORCID to give our expert peer review official seamless recognition. To fully leverage this collaboration, reviewers are simply required to register on these complementary service platforms. Thereafter, you can interlink your ORCID profile with the Web of Science Reviewer Recognition Service. We fully support verifying and crediting your review contribution directly from our manuscript submission system. Our journals have an automatic mechanism that links these peer review systems with your accounts. As a result, the moment you undertake a review in our journal, the credit of that review is stored into your account once the decision is given by the editor-in-chief. Other than that, there are various means where we recognize the peer review contributions, which also includes annual reviewer recognition list, giving out best reviewer awards, or issuing reviewer appreciation certificate based on the ratings provided by the editor-in-chief. All these measures are implemented to underscore the critical role that reviewers play in upholding the high standards of scholarly publishing. With this, I would now like to invite my colleague Ambika to proceed with the next topic.
Thank you, Adnan. Moving on, the strength of scientific records come from keeping at bay the unethical practices, and today I will take you through behind the scenes activity that takes place in every journal of Springer Nature once you submit your article. But before we dwell further, it's time for polls. So I request the organizer to put up the poll number 2.
Please wait.
Sure, sir.
So I am launching it. It is launched. I hope the poll is visible to all.
Yes, it's coming up.
It's coming up. Yeah.
Okay.
So the poll is live. Please go ahead and answer.
Very interesting responses.
Great. It's good to see that so many participants have responded.
We have 666 participants.
Great. So I think, Ambika, we
Great.
can launch the next poll also.
Yes. So now I have one more poll. So seeing these great responses. So can you please
Okay.
Can you please
I
add poll
think-
number 3?
Okay, I am adding it. Yeah.
Yes.
For all those who are mentioning that poll is not visible, just click on the three dots which says more options, and in that go to more panels, and then you will see the option slide of polling Q&A. Please click on that and then the polls will appear.
Yeah. Thank you. Next poll is also visible. Let us see.
Yes.
Mm. People are voting the poll basically.
Okay. Interesting responses. Okay. Now we will be answering these questions in our next slides. Moving on, as you can see in the next slide, we are going to talk about the publication ethics. The peer review submission system asks you whether your article is original and unpublished. The system also requests other relevant information like conflict of interest and source of your funding. In fact, immediately after all the authors of an article are registered, the system automatically sends them emails requesting them to verify their authorship. And lastly, some journals also require you to state what each author contributed to be an author of the manuscript. So, the suggestion from us is to read every word given in the form while you are filling in your submission. Moving on to the next section, which is much talked about, plagiarism. How do journals identify and deal with plagiarism? Behind the scenes of every submission, an authenticate report is auto-generated to keep a check on plagiarism. It is also triggered for the first revision paper of automatically. The decision to process a paper or simply reject it is based on the analysis of authenticate report. This authenticate report is for the editors who are handling the manuscript. It may also help to know that the guidance to the EIC to accept or reject the article based on the similarity report is not taken on the basis of similarity report only. There is a team associated with every journal that actually goes through every report and analyzes this report and then gives guidance to the EIC. And this information along with the report remains embedded in the system for the benefit of EIC. Each document is and should be viewed and evaluated separately. A percentage includes all matches, also matches to the name, the affiliations, information about funding, methods and methodology, and other usually innocent matches. These matches are added to the similarity index. This similarity index thus further should be used only as an indication. So the recommended thumb rule from us is anything about 10% is screened very quickly and anything about 20% should be checked more carefully. We always look at the context of the match and keep authenticates limitations in mind. Another important aspect is duplicate submissions. Duplicate submissions can be extremely frustrating for our editors and peer reviewers as they waste precious time and resources. If a case of duplicate submission is not spotted in time, it could lead to duplicate publication. And in those cases, the article that was published later will need to be retracted. At Springer, we use artificial intelligence to identify duplicate submissions within a particular journal or between different journals, and there are teams working exclusively on this very important aspect. Now, there is also fabrication of data and falsification of data. In case there is a complaint regarding the data falsification and data fabrication, we refer to the Springer Nature Research Integrity Team, who works to resolve the case by abiding to the COPE guidelines, along with the editor-in-chief and author in question. Accordingly, after complete investigation, an erratum or a retraction can take place. Now, another important topic of discussion is authorship change request. Authorship comes with an important responsibility like honesty, transparency, and ensuring originality of your work. Not only that, the sequence of author is decided by the quantum and importance of their contributions. We receive lot many cases of authorship additions, their deletions, even change of sequence of authors. And each case is dealt by following the COPE guidelines. But it will generally help to know that the people helping only in the data collection, proofreading, or copy editing, or the head of the department should be acknowledged, but they cannot be considered as the authors. With this, I would now like to invite Sonal to share about the changing publication landscape. Over to you, Sonal.
Thank you very much, Ambika. Back again. Now I'm going to share with all of you the latest developments in publishing that are or will influence how we disseminate our research. So before starting the discussion, time for the last poll of the day. Dear organizers, I know we are troubling you for this. Please go
No.
ahead with the last poll of the day, poll number 4.
Yes. Wait. Should I launch it?
Please go ahead, sir.
Okay. So it is launched. Is it visible?
It'll take a
Time.
few seconds to come up. Yes. I think it's still coming up.
Yes. Replying. The participants are replying. 17 votes, 20 votes.
Actually, Amar sir, it is not visible even to me also. Can you check once?
It is launched actually, and there
If
are
you
42.
click on the, there are small square boxes with a plus sign
Yes.
at the right bottom of your screen. And when you click on it, it will show you. Please try that.
Yes.
Yes, got it now. Yes.
Yes. L-shaped boxes are there.
Yeah.
3 boxes and plus symbol is there. You can click that.
So we can keep the poll launched and I can move ahead with my presentation.
Yeah.
Right. So we'll be talking about the open access publications, and the benefit of open access publications are very obvious. Now we all know that when an article is openly available, then it is better findable, it is more citable, and thereafter can also be reproduced easily to take forward advancing discovery. Now this reminds me of an incident wherein we had made the articles of a hybrid journal freely available for 8 weeks for a limited period of time. And as those articles were the part of special issue, we worked closely with the marketing team because we wanted to give special visibility to the theme-driven special issue. Now, little did we realize the value of this small effort until the EIC got a call from an excited author. And the author felt that there's something gone wrong with the Springer platform as his just published article was showing so many downloads. And it surprised him. But it was all because we made the article freely accessible for a limited period of time of 8 weeks. So imagine the impact of a good article or research that will have if it is totally open access. So we see how open access or open science is changing publishing landscape. In fact, unlike what many think, open access evolved because the funders desire to see research funded by them open access or freely accessible to all. Now, to support this endeavor, publishers came up with open access business models in which APC or the article processing charges is paid to make an article open access. But from where does this APC come is the million-dollar question that we all have. Now, before I dwell further on that, let's see how open access is evolving across the globe. So as you can see on this slide, OA is flourishing in Europe and is now supported by various funding initiatives. Now, there are many countries across the globe, including Australia, America, etc., where authors publish open access and APCs are supported by their research grants. There are also countries like India, etc., where we are supporting green open access. As publishers, we are definitely in favor of open science. And in fact, in the era of COVID, the need to make research openly available to be built upon further is well known to all. So moving on to the next slide, to begin with, it is important to note that majority of the countries in favor of open access are not just favoring, but also supporting open access in a very interesting way. This is known as transformative deals, compact deals, or read and publish deals. In these deals, when a country or institute signs a contract with a publisher, then the deal is for two things. First is the reading rights of X number of journals, and second is for publishing Y number of articles in open access mode in publisher's journal. So within this model, authors from those countries or institutes, as the case may be, don't have to bother at all for the APC. So as long as the corresponding author is from that deal country or the institute, the APC amount is automatically deducted from the deal money and the article becomes open access. Springer has signed maximum of such deals with countries like Netherlands, Germany, Austria, UK, Qatar, Finland, Poland, Max Planck Institute, to name a few. And we also have a couple of deals in India and many more in pipeline. And in the next line, you can see the scope of such deals. So as it can be seen on the slide. Now let's see what are the two important and most talked about models of open access publications. So when as an author, you upload your author version in a preprint server or in an institutional repository, then that self-archiving is referred to as green open access. This article is not yet peer-reviewed and it is the raw version of what will get published subsequently. Now, this uploading in a preprint server is before acceptance of the article by any journal. And in an institutional repository after an embargo of maybe 6 to 12 months as specified by the publisher or the owner of the journal. Now, the second important aspect of this uploading is that when an article is accepted in a journal, then the author is required to upload the DOI and publication link of his finally accepted article. The point to note is that uploading articles in preprint server is an acceptable way of publishing and is also encouraged by Springer Nature. So at the time of gold open access, this is the version of the article which is thoroughly peer reviewed, not the raw version. And after submission in the journal, it is published on the payment of APC, which is article processing charges. Now, talking about open science, there's another very interesting and useful development for authors in Springer Nature journals, is the facility of in-review, which is associated with majority of our journals. And this means that while making a submission, the author can easily, with a click of a mouse, post the same article on the preprint of the journal. And this publication, after few technical checks, gets a DOI at the time of publication, which means that the preprint article can also be referenced and it can start attracting citation. The second most important point to note is whether or not to publish the article in the preprint is not mandatory and at all, and the author can take a decision over this. The benefit of attaching in review with Springer Journal is that the authors get a wonderful dashboard, and with this facility, they can also trace the status of their article. Now, while open access we know is the best way to expedite sharing of research, we also very much understand that there are many authors who are not yet supported by their funders or institute in the payment of APC. So to help them to legally share their content, we have created an easy way. This mechanism is called Shared It, which is a content sharing initiative that allows authors and subscribers to copy paste a link as shown in the screenshot. The link is available with every published article. So when you click on this link, anyone can freely read the article. All that they cannot do is print the article or save the article, but the article can be read. So with this, we now move on to the last section of this presentation, which is cloned journal. I request Ambika to take over from here.
Thank you, Sonal. So now we are going to talk about the fake journals, mirror journals or clone journals. Clone journals, which are also known as the fake journals or mirror journals or hijacked journals, copied journals, or simply duplicate journals. As descriptive from these synonyms, these journals are created by the fraudsters to lure the potential authors to dupe money from them. The international indexing databases are highly relied by these researchers for selection of appropriate journals for their research and for their evaluation. But the presence of these predatory journals in them can mislead the authors. There are hundreds of cases discovered which are not even registered yet. These fake journals mislead the authors by presenting journals holding undeserved prestige, non-peer reviewed papers, fake impact factor, fake indexing information, fake ISSN, and whatnot. As of now, there are many cloned journals present in these indexing databases. Basically, what these fraudsters do is they copy and clone the title and ISSN of these legitimate journals. They register these journals on the expired web domains and create their fake websites. Then they manipulate the link to the journal homepage in the database to direct the authors towards the fake websites. And thus the author gets on the fake websites and walk on the path created by the scammers. Now the question is, how do they deceive the authors? There are various factors as of how these journals deceive the research scholars, and we are going to discuss it in detail. We get to understand that a robbery has occurred only after it has occurred. So just like that, we get to know that we have been deceived after it has already occurred. The first and very important factor being that these journals do not conduct peer review of the submitted papers, which is a very important aspect of our research publications. They ask for high fees from the authors in exchange of fast publication, and once the amount is paid to them, there is no response from them. And that's when you realize that you have been tricked and cheated. These fraudsters create a cloned website of the original and legitimate ones, thus contributing to a journal scam. Only specific type of journals are targeted, one of which includes the print-only journals, where the cloned websites serve as the only website for such journals. And other types of journals which are easy to clone includes the niche journals, the standalone journals, university journals, or the trade journals. Generally, a fake editorial board is created for these journals, which include the real scholars or the fake scholars, and they might even copy the editorial board of the genuine journal as well. They also put false impact factor, they mimic the original DOI, they hack original websites, compromise its data in the indexing databases. Even the homepage links are compromised in this databases, where if you click on the link of the journal homepage, as I discussed earlier, thinking that it's the original one, it will take you to the cloned website, and thus you will be tricked in submitting to these journals. Now I request Adnan to take over.
Thank you, Ambika. So my colleague very well explained the concept of cloned, or also known as the hijacked journals. As previously noted, these fraudulent activities are typically uncovered only after the authors have been deceived and money has been extracted from them. Unfortunately, there is very limited information available on the techniques these journals use to infiltrate the databases and defraud the authors. These journals operate only for a brief period, remaining active only until the fees are paid. Post this, they become inactive and abandoned, with their websites functioning only until the domain expires. The scientific community has identified clone journals due to various forms of misconduct, including unusual citation patterns, submissions on topics misaligned with the journal scope, and other irregularities, which will be discussed in the next slide. To ensure the accurate status of these journals, we would request you to verify the ISSN on the publicly accessible ISSN portal. There is significant occurrence of self-citation and reciprocal citation among these cloned journals. This extensive mutual citation indicates potential citation inflation and suggests towards formation of citation cartels. The archives of these journals also share similar titles. Additionally, comparing the layouts can also help determine or confirm a journal's status as a cloned one. A high impact factor and strong indexing can usually attract the authors, but it also represents potential vulnerability. It is crucial to verify the records of indexing databases to confirm if the indexing services and impact factor are still active for the journal or if they are making false claim about being indexed. With this, we would now like to conclude this session by saying that cloned journals persistently affect the scholarly databases, undermine academic integrity, and raise significant concerns regarding quality control. As a smart author, we always verify the journal credentials thoroughly through official sources like the ISSN portal to avoid falling victim to such scams. With this, we come to an end of this coming together, and thank you all for your attention and participation. We would now like to leave the floor open for questions. I think we can now enable the chat box for questions. The organizers.
Yes, it is enabled now.
You can type the questions at the chat window.
Good afternoon, madam.
Questions and answers. Yes, please.
My name is Venkata Subramanian Ganapati. My question is, can the first author and the corresponding author be different or same?
They can be different. They can be different.
Okay,
But-
madam.
But yes, there has to be a particular reason why you really want to do this. But yes, they can be different.
Okay, ma'am. What is the acceptance rate for revised manuscripts with a major revision division?
That depends upon the journal and the editorial decider, the editors who decide over the manuscript. And this is something which cannot be a certain, which cannot be ascertained in numbers. It completely depends upon the journal.
There is so many criteria are there, isn't it?
Yes, there, as I told you, it depends upon the editor. So if the editor is giving major revision decision, and after that the author has really taken care of the reviewer's points and the manuscript is now in a good shape, then it can be accepted. Otherwise, it can again be asked for minor revision, or otherwise it can be rejected with an encouragement to resubmit. You know, there are various decision terms that can be used.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, madam. Please explain Clarivate analytics to find out the
Clarivate.
impact factor.
Okay.
Factor of the journal.
So I will explain you impact factor of the journal. Impact factor of the journal is always provided by the Clarivate Analytics, which is Web of Science, and this is the only agency that can be trusted when we are looking forward to know the impact factor of a journal. They have their own criteria to calculate the impact factor of a journal, and it will be difficult for me to comment on that because that is a different organization.
Okay, thank you, madam. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you can see the chat box. It is flooded with a lot of thank you messages. Very nice session.
Hello,
Yeah.
we have a session by Dr. Neha Trivedi madam, as well as Dr. Om Prakash Temburne sir. So welcome, and we have the session for
Yes.
15 minutes on various journals, which is open access. So Dr. Neha Trivedi madam is the director Open Access India, and Dr. Om Prakash Temburne sir is the executive publisher, Springer Nature Group. Please, Neha madam.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I hope you can hear me clearly. Let me give a brief introduction about myself. I am Neha Trivedi, looking after working as a publishing director for Springer Nature India, and looking after launching a series of journals under a new imprint called Curious. I'm going to talk about that very briefly, but first of all, would like to thank my colleagues Sonal, Ambika, and Adnan Thank you for such an informative session, and also to FTP coordinators. Thank you for inviting us, and being a part of this FTP. It was a great experience. Very quickly, I'll share my screen and would request if you can see the slide.
Yes, slides are visible. Okay.
Visible.
Okay, so today I'm going to talk about a new imprint called Curious Journals. Curious are a part of Springer Nature. We already have one mega journal within the Curious series. It's called as Curious Journal of Medical Sciences. It's in the medical sciences space, which covers close to about 61 different specialities within the medical journal. And it is one of the largest open access journals in the medical sciences space. We are publishing close to about 18,000 publications year on year under the Curious Journal of Medical Sciences. As you might also be aware of other mega imprints, Scientific Reports, which is also a part of Springer Nature, is the largest open access journal in the world. And Curious Journal of Medical Sciences is the largest open access journal in the medical sciences space. So talking about Curious, what is so new about Curious Journals, and why are we talking about it today? Simply because we have identified that there are a lot of researcher challenges. We spoke about how to submit a paper, what kind of research integrity checks we need to keep in mind, etc. At the same time, if you look at other researcher challenges, and specifically for open access publishing, high cost barrier or high APCs are one of the biggest challenges that we have, specifically for countries like India, specifically for countries like Global South, with underfunded research, our funding available for research, high cost barrier for publishing in open access journals becomes the biggest challenge for the researchers. In addition to that, we have submission to publication delays. We are talking about 6 to 8 months of timelines when it comes to submit to publication, as well as different complex user interfaces that we all have to deal with while submitting our manuscript into a submission system within that publishing space. To answer all of those questions, Springer came up with a unique model for Curious Journals. And based on that model, we only charge for editing services. So it's an open access model, but we do not charge for any processing charges. There are no APCs, and there are only low editing services or editing fee. That is also dependent upon the kind of editing fee or editing services which are required. So if the paper is really well written, we do not charge for any editing fees or any editing payment. Just to take some statistics from the medical journal, for Curious Journal of Medical Sciences, approximately 30% of their manuscripts are published free of cost in open access journal. We do not charge anything because they have been really written well. If we talk about, what is the average editing fee? The average editing fee roughly is around $300 to $350 for the medical sciences journal. However, I'm going to talk very briefly about the 2 new journals that we have launched and what would be the editing fee required for those journals in the upcoming slides. Another important feature is reduced turnaround time. So we normally talk about, submit to publish timeline, like I said, 6 to 8 months, whereas we have really tried to reduce our turnaround time, submit to publish turnaround time in such a way that we will be able to come back within the 2 months. So for example, once you is good for publication, the rest of the processes, including peer review, etc., and decision making happens within 2 months of timeline. So within 60 to 65 days, you would have answers or you would have your publication ready. And third is there is a unified workflow. So it's again, it's a Springer Nature platform which has been developed totally in-house, which is very, very transparent as well as user-friendly. And we make sure that, as an author, you have complete overview of where the manuscript is. You can actually track down the manuscript on dashboards. You will know at what stage the manuscript is. So it's a very clear navigating, user-friendly platform that has been developed by Springer Nature through Curious Journals. So some of the value propositions that I'm going to talk about Curious Journals, I think some of it I've already briefly touched upon in terms of swift publishing, in terms of no APCs, but we have variable editing fee depending upon the kind of editing fee which is required for a paper. Superior user experience in terms of very, very user-friendly and intuitive platform. It's a community-driven publishing. If you look at the Medical Sciences Journal as well, it goes will be rigor in peer review, and there are a lot of integrity checks that Sonal, Ambika, and Adnan talked about briefly, just like it happens with each and every Springer Nature journal. Another unique proposition around Curious is variable formats. So we just not accept the original articles as well as review articles, but we are also looking at shorter formats like technical reports, like editorials, like case studies, because we feel that every research needs to find a home, and hence we are open to accepting variable formats within these Curious Journal series. Recently, we have launched a journal in engineering. You can see the scope on the left-hand side of the screen, where you can see that we are accepting everything right from mechanical, chemical, to electronics, environmental, and engineering management as well. On the right-hand side, you can see different article types that Curious Journal of Engineering is currently accepting. We have also launched, in the month of July, we have also launched a Journal of Computer Science. And again, I have listed for you the scope and different article types for these computer science and engineering journals. One of the unique things that we are also doing for this year, considering we have just launched these two journals, is the editing fee. So while I spoke about roughly the editing fee could vary for the Medical Sciences Journal, vary from $350 on an average, for these two journals as an inaugural offer, we have made sure that we want to make it more and more affordable for all the researchers. And hence we have kept a very standard fee of $99 till December. So if you want to publish your research into Journal of Computer Science as well as Journal of Engineering, you can do so. It's an open access journal by Springer Nature, and we will be able to publish. If it requires any kind of an editing fee, there will be a standard editing fee of only $99, but this offer is only till December 2024. So you can visit curiousjournals.com. That's the website that we have, which has all the instructions, author guidelines, as well as how you can submit your paper. So that's all I wanted to talk about. And, on behalf of Sonal, Ambika, Adnan, and the Springer team, I really thank you for your attention and participation. Thank you.
Participants, if you have any questions, please type at chat window.
So I think there is one